ready to go with me to Zimbabwe?
Dude, I'm ready.
Well,
I'm here for it.
I am going to call in a person who knows everything that's going on around there as far as religious freedom and Christianity is concerned. So Micheal Walsh, he is with the Voice of the Martyrs, and today he's going to be bringing to us some stories about Zimbabwe. He just came back from that country. So Micheal, thank you so much for joining us today, and we are excited to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Micheal, first, tell us a little bit about Zimbabwe as a country. What should we know about? What is Zimbabwe maybe famous for? What are they like as a country?
Sure. Zimbabwe, it's a part of the Commonwealth, so it was a British colony at one. When it was a British colony, it was known as Rhodesia, and it was often referred to as the breadbasket of Africa. It was probably the most profitable, the most stable British colony for a long time. There's a lot of natural resources. There was a good culture of farming and hunting. However, the Rhodesian Bush War in the 70s led to the election of Robert Mugabe as the leader of the country. And Mugabe is a complex figure. He is a political leader that is still viewed, with a lot of hope by some and with a lot of hatred by others.
So is he still in power?
No. So Mugabe was kicked out in a coup d'etat in 2017.
Okay.
However, from the time that he was leading in the 70s through to that point, he led the country to absolute economic despair. You might have heard that Zimbabwe at one point was printing $50 billion notes, and you needed a whole wheelbarrow of $50 billion notes just to buy a loaf of bread.
Wow.
The hyperinflation there was so bad that there was just no way that you could actually – they just kept printing more and more money because they thought that would fix the problem, and it just made it worse.
Wow, that is crazy. Hey, Lawson, if you want to be a billionaire in Zimbabwe, invitation is open. That's right. No, jokes aside, that's a very, very sad story, and it's so amazing how in the midst of the 21st century, some economies just haven't yet learned that you cannot fix all the problems by just printing money. It doesn't work like that.
No.
Micheal, tell us a little bit about your trip. So you recently went to Zimbabwe. Tell us how it went.
Yeah, no, thank you. These days, Zimbabwe is trying to develop again. They have adopted the USD as their currency, and they're trying to connect more with the global economy. However, Zimbabwe is a place where corruption is still clear and evident in kind of every aspect of the society and the culture that's there. And so the trip that I was on, we took a group of university students in Australia who were considering global mission. And so we went and we visited Zimbabwe and we kind of traveled around the country, and a couple of key things stood out.
All right.
The church that is there is vibrant, however, it is under-resourced. Because of that has existed in the country for decades, there is no stable way to actually employ people in ministry. And so most of the people that are involved on campuses doing campus ministry or who are leading churches have all got some sort of business, some sort of side hustle. Every Zimbabwean is an entrepreneur, because if they don't, then they've got nothing.
Wow. So it sounds to be like a pretty difficult economical situation. What are some other things that got your attention during that trip to Zimbabwe?
That last resource means that they are hungry for people to come and to help, but that can lead to a patron-client relationship. I'm dependent on others and no longer self-sufficient. It's a dangerous and hard line to walk.
Yes, absolutely.
Because of the corruption, a lot of the churches and the church movements have ended up embracing prosperity theology. There are leaders who are deliberately leading their sheep astray for their own political gain.
Wow.
And it was heartbreaking to go and visit a church and see a leader dressed in nice clothes and asking for more money as we looked around and saw people who had nothing.
Wow, there's something that makes my blood boil is prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
I cannot hate that theology enough.
He provided business success over our students. And he said that if you give to God's business, then he will give to your business.
Wow.
And so God's business is the church. So if you give to the church, then God will support you, which is not biblical. The idea of minding God's business is to serve his kingdom, to give of yourself, not give of your wallet.
Yes, absolutely. So Micheal, wow, it looks like it was quite an intense journey. How long did you spend in Zimbabwe?
So we were there for just 2 weeks. And we traveled to 3 parts of the country, the capital, Harare, a regional centre down south called Mashingo, and a tourist town on the east on the border with Mozambique.
Okay. And how do you think that, what are some of the impacts that these university students that came along, I'm assuming mostly young men and women, what are some of the impacts that that they shared that they had throughout witnessing the state of the church in Zimbabwe?
Yeah. They were encouraged by the gospel joy despite the gospel poverty. Seeing campus workers, particularly on some of the universities that we visited, who are living on $100 a month, and yet they want to invest in a new generation of students in Zimbabwe. That was an encouragement, but it's hard because a lot of these students, the first time that they will actually have the Bible opened in front of them, given to them to read for themselves, will be on a camp. Because in a lot of the churches that they go to on a Sunday, the Bible is not properly taught. The Bible is twisted and distorted. And so it gave our students a real perspective on just how easy we have access to the gospel and good gospel teaching here in Australia.
Micheal, it's interesting, that and it's quite sobering, that reality that even though Christianity is vibrant, at the same time is under-resourced, and a lot of people, because they do not have the knowledge of the Bible, they can be led astray by false gospels such as the prosperity gospel. But one question that I have is there any kind of level of persecution? Because you're with Voice of the Martyrs, right? So Voice of the Martyrs is often engaged with Christians, with brothers and sisters, in the persecuted church. Is that something that happens in Zimbabwe, or Zimbabwe is basically quite a benign country to practice the Christian faith?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it depends on where you are in the country. The major source of persecution comes from corruption. And so leaders of churches spoken out against corrupt politicians have often been arrested, beaten, and imprisoned because of their opposition to leaders that have sought to abuse the people that they are in charge of. And so there are quite a few parts of Zimbabwe where particularly corrupt leaders have, wanted to charge more to meet, where they've wanted to, get some of the money that is coming from the offering to make sure that no one disrupts the church service. However, Zimbabwe would also say that it's a Christian country. 67% of the population identifies as either Pentecostal or apostolic. Those who identify as apostolic tend to follow an apostle, and those tend to be the prosperity churches. But about 57% of the Zimbabwean population is under the age of 5. There is
under the age of how much?
25.
Wow.
So the country has this massive young population, and there's not many people kind of older than that due to the AIDS epidemic that happened, due to the wars and forced disappearance under Mugabe. There's a real lack of older leaders and those who are around tend to not be investing in that next generation.
Wow, absolutely. What a great challenge. Even though the country largely identifies as Christian, there's so much challenges there. So what is the role or the needs that you have identified as a ministry with Voice of Martyrs that you can help out the situation of the church in Zimbabwe? Is there anything that you guys are doing, or was mostly just an educational trip?
Yeah. So this particular trip was being done with AFES, which is the Australian Fellowship of Evangelical Students, and we were partnering with Focus, which is the Fellowship of Christian Union Students, which is the kind of Zimbabwean sister movement. Voice of the Martyrs themselves are not presently active in Zimbabwe. However, Zimbabwe, due to its somewhat Christian society, ends up being a location where we can kind of journey out from into neighbouring countries, places where there is increasing persecution in sub-Saharan Africa.
Oh, I see. What neighbouring countries from Zimbabwe experience Christian persecution? I'm sorry, I'm not super familiar with the Zimbabwe geography. Sure.
So if you head a little bit north, you end up kind of in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where increasing militia activity is leading to churches being attacked and Christians being killed. You get to places like Angola, or you get to places like I'm blanking on it now, just north of Cameroon, which are beginning to have larger and larger Muslim populations. These are places where people are fleeing to Zimbabwe, or to the south, to South Africa, to Zambia. These are places where Christians are leaving Muslim increasing areas due to that threat and that act of persecution.
Okay. And Micheal, what are some prayer points? How can we pray at home, and how can we support, how can we get involved if perhaps we have university students that would like to have that opportunity to go on a mission trip similar to that one? How can they do that?
Yeah. The big thing to pray for is truth. Pray that truth would be known and that people would hold on to truth in the face of falsehood. Richard, who started Voice of the Martyrs, has a quote. He says, "No one persecutes a weak Christian, but a weak Christian persecutes a strong Christian."
Wow.
Because a weak Christian will immediately bend the knee to whoever is persecuting and join the persecutors, persecute those who do not bend the knee. And so we see that these prosperity teachers who lead people astray, who inform the government, who are a part of advising politicians, they have become persecutors that they lead.
Wow.
As they bring people out of light and into darkness and shield them from the truth of the gospel.
Wow. That's very sobering, and certainly a amazing prayer point to pray about at home with our families for Zimbabwe, that they get to know the truth. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what's happening there. And Micheal, how can people get involved with Voice of the Martyrs? How can they contribute? How can they get to know more?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Up on end of financial year, Voice of the Martyrs is a tax-deductible charity. So if you are looking to do something with your tax return, or you're looking to give a bit of a charitable donation before the end of financial year, Voice of the Martyrs is currently running its kind of EFI, program, project. Other ways to get involved, we have a magazine that you can subscribe to. That magazine contains stories that are coming from the field, coming from like China, India, Cuba, North Korea, parts of Africa. You can subscribe to that via our website, and you can also you can either get a digital copy or you can get a print, so you can make that decision. And you can also follow us on Instagram to get daily prayer updates. And we have an app, the Voice of the Martyrs app, and you can access that, and that will also give you daily prayer points. And we have a library of resources, including audio books, audio sermons, and other videos about what's happening around the world to our persecuted brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I downloaded the Voice of the Martyrs app. It's a pretty impressive app. I'm very glad that you touched into that. Micheal, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your experience with us, and thank you so much for being part of the Voice of the Martyrs and for talking to us here at the Breakfast Show.